College Football 26 Dynasty trailer is here, and along with that comes the deep dive. This is going to be a long video. This is a Dynasty channel and franchise, of course, for Madden. There is a lot to cover. We're going to be going over the entire blog as well as the trailer. There's a lot to talk about. Let's throw it over to Kirk Herbstreit.
Hey everybody, it's Kirk Herbstreit. Improvements to Dynasty and EA Sports College Football 26 are focused around adding authenticity to every Dynasty run, while also delivering on community feedback. For the first time ever, you can start your Dynasty by stepping into the role of one of over 300 authentic college football coaches. To ensure each coach and coordinator's authentic styles are highlighted, we completely rebalanced archetypes and abilities.
What I will say, off the bat, we'll cover this probably a little bit more when we get to the actual blog. Recruiter, in my opinion, sucks now. I've played College Football 26. Recruiter, I don't think is good. I wouldn't use it. Now, there is a bit of a change. You can see, and this is the same for all the positions, and again, we'll talk more about this, but you're missing a lot of the actual good recruiter abilities, like adding more hours, having your hours mean more. Those are now in Elite Recruiter, which I think will be good. Here's the catch, though. You don't unlock Elite Recruiter until 2 top 5 recruiting classes. It's still the same, but it has been locked away. So I don't know how you're going to consistently sign any type of top class without some of those abilities. You're going to have to really, really build up your school prior to that, which some people are going to like. I recognize creating the balance between people that play just a season or two and guys that play 20 years in Dynasty. I'm not really a guy who goes 20 years deep. And I don't think you're going to be able to get a lot of the top actual good abilities, because we're going to talk about it again later about how they've kind of redesigned Program Builder and CEO for the coach abilities, but you don't unlock those until like a minimum of like 7 to 10 years down the line. So signing 2 top 5 recruiting classes, that probably takes, I'm going to say maybe not a minimum of 5 years, but close to it, minimum. And at that point, if you're already signing top 5 recruiting classes, why do you need Elite Recruiter in the first place? Coordinators maybe are going to matter a lot more, I would say. You want Elite Recruiter coordinators, that's for sure, because your head coach will not be able to get them. And when he does, it probably won't matter a whole lot.
And enhanced playbooks with over 2,800 new plays. So when you battle a CEO like Kirby Smart one week and a program builder like Lane Kiffin the next, you truly feel the difference on the football field. This new depth also offers more options when creating your own coach, giving you more control over the path you ultimately take. A new progression curve offers early career momentum with more sustained growth across a new level cap.
Like 100 levels now. I think 100 is the actual number. Of course, that does scale up as you go up, but the spacing, the scaling is totally different. It's not just, okay, same as last year, but 100 levels now, so you can just get everything you want. Nope, the pricing is completely different. The scaling is completely different. The level you need to be in order to unlock anything is completely different.
Of course, no coach
we'll talk about that more in the blog.
So hire coordinators who complement your.
This is going to be incredibly important. I talked about it, but because Recruiter is bad now, in my opinion, you will need your coordinators to really do a bulk of that. Like, it's going to be super, super important to have recruiters with these elite abilities. Otherwise, I think you're going to be in trouble.
Or shore up your weaknesses and make sure to leverage your staff's active archetype to really accelerate your progression. Updates to how coaching archetypes are unlocked, balanced, and expanded make each coaching path even more strategic and distinct. All 3 base archetypes now require a minimum coach level to unlock, promoting focused early investment and making your initial archetype choice more meaningful. New scaling archetype costs encourage more intentional choices as you progress.
So some things do get more expensive, but a lot of what this means is that if you are a recruiter type, it's going to be a little bit cheaper to work in recruiter and more expensive to work in other places. So for the same exact ability, a motivator coach might have that motivator ability only cost 10, but a recruiter coach might have that motivator ability cost 20, even if you've already unlocked motivator, obviously. So if that's my understanding of it, that's how I think it's going to function.
Now, advancing within your specialty, like moving from recruiter to elite recruiter, is more affordable than a path that requires learning a new skill set. Preserve your Dynasty legacy with the all-new Trophy Room. Showcase.
Of course, this used to be a feature, 10, 15 years ago. And I think it's something, it doesn't really add a whole lot to me. I'm not going to be like, ooh, let me check out and grow my Trophy Room. I think it's something that should just have been in the game. Same thing with the stats. It's going to pop up pretty soon. Just college football history. I think it should be there. Does it add a whole lot? Not for me personally. Some people are really going to enjoy it.
Every trophy, title,
it just
and
should be
individual award won throughout your coaching journey. And look ahead at what coveted hardware you still need to strive for. The new college football history feature serves as a college football history book and lets you compare your program to the all-time greats, adding a new dimension of legacy building to Dynasty. We've revamped the transfer portal to create more realistic player movement.
There are a lot of quarterbacks. I could say that 5 times over, a lot. There are so many quarterbacks in the portal, and that is, I think, fairly representative of what college football is. Quarterbacks want to play. And if you're a backup quarterback, you just transfer nowadays. There are very few quarterbacks that will sit and wait their turn. It does happen, but there are a lot of QBs that transfer. And in my experience, playing college football 26 early, the first 40 players were quarterbacks. There are so many QBs, and the portal is going to be extremely important. You will lose players to the portal more than you're used to from college football 25 by a lot in my experience so far. And I would say that you're going to have to replenish your roster and fortify with the portal. I think the portal, just like I suppose in real college football, is unavoidable. It's going to be extremely important to use it. Also, Sadir Mitchell does not have a head in this, but he transferred from Texas, so screw him.
Especially among the 4- and 5-star players. Now, from 2,000 up to 3,500 athletes can enter the portal each season, giving you fresh ways to build your roster year after year.
You're going to have to,
New
I think.
dynamic deal breakers are
Pretty
player
much.
expectations that evolve with their talent. That 3-star freshman who is happy with average facilities? If he's an All-American by junior year, he might be looking for top-tier amenities. And whether it's listed as a...
That's going to be really frustrating if you are at a small school that have really built somebody up and they're an All-American caliber player and your facilities have not upgraded at the same rate or whatever it is. That's going to be really annoying to lose, star players, but it sounds like it's not only a real possibility, but it sounds like it's going to happen. I don't know about every time, but it sounds like there's a pretty good chance. So that's going to make building up these small schools even more difficult. And that's kind of the case that we see in real life.
Deal breaker or not, your most talented players may still demand playing time.
Yeah, and that should be the case. That's how it is in real life. It does make, Dynasty a little bit more challenging, of course, but playtime is arguably the biggest factor for, any of these recruits. They want to play. Nobody wants to ride the bench.
Abilities can impact dynamic deal breakers, providing strategic recruiting advantages. New dynamic dev traits have a bigger impact on...
Dynamic is the big key there, because if it starts at normal or impact, it can get upgraded to star, to elite, and maybe even back down the other way. You can also finally upgrade your players as you see fit if you want to. That's a massive change. You can also see in the training results screen, it shows you exactly what has been upgraded and by how much. Beautiful.
Player growth, along with more abilities across 59 total player archetypes for better variety.
You can see a ton of new archetypes. I talked about some of this in my video from the other day. For example, quarterback, you don't only have like mobile athlete, scrambler, or pocket passer, whatever, improviser. You now have like pocket passer plus dual threat plus pure runner plus backfield creator. There's so many different archetypes now that create a very different look of player where you're not just going to see kind of the same 3 types every single time. Now they're like 5 or even 6 per position, it would seem. Something in that range. Running back has a ton of fun ones. Although there is a running back one that's like north-south blocker. And I say running back, I mean halfback. Because fullback is a different thing. Do I want a halfback that's a north-south blocker? Bizarre. But there are a couple different types of receiving backs. There's a power back. There's an elusive type back. There is a power elusive back. A lot more archetypes. And why do archetypes matter? Attributes to a degree, but it's really about which physical abilities they can get.
And skill group levels increase from 10 to 20. So progression feels more gradual and real.
I think that's good, right? I think it creates your upgrades to be a little bit more meaningful. You can control them now if you want. And I think the gradual minor improvements over a bunch at one time is, again, probably more realistic and at least better for the game.
Realistic.
Also, hold on, I want to go back just 1 second here. So you can see, based on your coach abilities, architects can increase a player's skill group caps with the limitless and put a ring on it ability. So I think just seeing that on the screen lets you know, okay, how can I improve that? CEOs can increase all skill group caps by 1 for rising seniors. You know what it takes. You know where to find it. I just think that's a nice quality of life change.
Recruiting visits now involve location-based costs.
Huge. I mean, depending on where you are, if you're in New Jersey, for example, it should cost a lot less for a visit to bring in a player from New Jersey rather than California. It costs the same amount. It was 40. Now I think it's 10 all the way up to 40. So
the further a prospect
really
lives
nice
from your campus, the
especially
more
for
recruiting
small
hours a
schools.
visit costs. This simulates an authentic recruiting challenge faced by smaller programs who must focus locally, while powerhouses can recruit nationally. New recruiting battles create high-stakes showdowns when...
I will say, and I haven't had enough exposure to College Football 26, obviously. I don't have the full game right now. I don't know what recruiting battle really does. In my understanding, we'll read more about it in the blog, it kind of just, it felt like the same as the final screen last time, the final stage when recruiting, except it just shows 2 now. It really, to me, it felt the exact same, but just 2 schools instead of like 4 or whatever it was. So it just kind of looks like another stage. I don't know.
Multiple schools are neck and neck for a coveted recruit.
I want players to be able to commit and decommit. That's like kind of the big thing. Now, we have seen that happen. You see flips, but it's going to be annoying. I know if I end up getting a 5-star to commit and then he decommits, that would be really, really frustrating, and it does happen. But once they fully get that going in the game, recruiting is going to feel a lot more real. But that's going to be an annoying feature. But I still don't think it's going to happen all that much in College Football 26, at least compared to how it happens in real life. It seems like if I had to give you an average for schools a player is committed to out of the top like 500 in recruiting in real life, probably like, I mean, maybe like a little over 1. I feel like you have that many decommits and flips that almost every single player doesn't end up committing to the school that they commit to for the first time. Some pick one and they stay there, but there are some that have 1, 2, 3, maybe even more than that, schools that they're committed to over their high school career. So it is interesting. I don't know how they're going to get that going in the game. It's not in College Football 25, like more than it was in CFP 25 or CFP 26 more than it was in 25, but they got to get that going.
Are now front and center on your prospect list.
Nice quality of life change.
You always know exactly where to focus your efforts. When it comes to wear and tear, every player now has a seasonal health pool that depletes as they recover. And
I think that's really nice overall. You can see in the bottom left, you have their season health plus their career health. So as you can see, once a player's season health is empty, they will no longer recover wear and tear. So that could be kind of brutal. You're really going to have to manage how much these guys play, and you're going to have to sit them, situationally. And that maybe means, hey, if you're Michigan taking on Ball State, hey, maybe your star players are not playing after the first quarter or after the first drive, or if they're playing, maybe an FCS school or something like that. It's cool to play your star players and have them dominate a small-time school and get in position to win the Heisman, but you will have to worry about their health. But hey, if you don't like that, turn wear and tear off, or if you do like it but don't want it to completely change the way you play the game, just completely adjust every single slider for wear and tear. It's completely customizable for different positions, for different types of tackles. You can do whatever you want to do.
Once it's empty, they can't bounce back until the offseason. New auto subs incorporate different wear and tear strategies, allowing you to customize substitution thresholds and better manage your team's.
And you'll also notice that there are strategies, so you don't have to go in and change every single thing individually, which is a nice quality of life thing. And you can change this game to game. So you might want this to be different, again, if you're playing an FCS school versus one of the best teams in the nation, where you need your star players if you're going to have a chance to win.
As substitution thresholds and better manage your team's long-term usage. Within custom conferences, the new protected opponents option ensures certain annual matchups, regardless of divisional changes.
Thank you.
Preserve key rivalries like Michigan versus Ohio State every year with this feature.
So you could put Ohio State in the SEC and still play Michigan once a year, or whatever you want to do.
To 2 protected opponents per team. New formation subs provide flexibility to assign players to specific alignments, adding ways to strategically exploit opponent team weaknesses. Take advantage of new position archetypes with up to 50 subs per team, with packages that persist season to season. With crossplay in Dynasty, build your college football empire with friends on any platform. Use the Enhanced Player Hub and new Members tab to effortlessly manage your Dynasty and stay connected. Pre-order the MVP bundle. Includes.
So, I've talked about this a little bit already, and my thoughts on it just kind of can be echoed right now. I think if you liked College Football 25, you are really going to like College Football 26. There are so many nice quality of life changes. I don't think anything they did is completely transformative and game-changing from what was already, in my opinion, a really good foundation in College Football 25. But I just think they took out so many pain points. They added so much customization that your Dynasty will be able to run exactly how you want it. Right? If you don't like the wear and tear, you can completely customize that. The coaching abilities stuff is fairly changed. And just a lot of the annoying things about College Football 25, I don't believe are in College Football 26. Your transfer portal players, as far as I'm aware, will be getting upgraded in off-season training, right? It's just little things like that that actually ended up playing a big impact are now kind of fixed in College Football 26. And hopefully the actual committed screen is going to pop up more often and not just in the offseason. So we've moved over to the blog here with the big people behind Dynasty Mode. My guy, Chad Walker. from College Football Revamped, Ben Hawmiller. I mean, the people over at College Football 26, I really think are just fantastic. They really care. They want to make the game great, and they want to satisfy the core community because this is their game. They've done a lot, obviously, with the sliders, the customization, right? You can pretty much play your Dynasty exactly how you want to, and that is a lot around coach customization. The abilities is going to end up being really important, but I mean, you can throw your coach out there in jean shorts and a sleeveless tank. It's I guess a tank is sleeveless, kind of redundant, but so much coach customization if you're into that. To me, it's going to play a pretty minimal effect, but it's there if you want it. As you can see, no coach can be great at everything. How you build your coach and manage your staff matters. Your coordinators either complement your strengths or shore up your deficiencies. Last year was about complementing the strengths and really just building into that one area. I don't know if that's going to end up being the meta this year. We'll see. Coach level has been increased from 50 to 100, and they've completely rebalanced the amount of XP each goal earns to better reflect its frequency and difficulty. I do think it needed a big-time rebalance, and that's apparently what it got. Of course, how well this is actually going to play remains to be seen. We do not have College Football 26 yet. We don't know. It's going to take probably not just weeks, but months to figure out the absolute best way to go about it, and we'll see what that way ends up being. Again, I don't think recruiter is going to end up being important for your head coach. I'm going to go into motivator. I'm going to tell you right away. I'm going to go into motivator and then probably architect. And then, I mean, we'll see what you need for each thing, right? They've rebalanced and kind of changed a lot of way this stuff works. But I think unless they can boost recruiter back up a little bit, it just won't really matter. Because again, I think elite recruiter is going to be quite good. But you need 2 top 5 classes to even get those. So it seems like a little overkill in my opinion. Maybe 1 top 5 class, maybe 1 I think would be better to unlock elite recruiter. But if you're, UTSA, when are you unlocking elite recruiter? And if you've already put your program in a position to get a top 5 class or even 2 top 5 classes like you need, you're already recruiting at an elite level. Which I guess you could make the argument, well, that's why you have elite recruiter, because you are recruiting at an elite level. But my argument would be that I think elite recruiter should help you recruit at that elite level. If you're already doing it, why would I even need the ability? Well, I guess because there are 100 coach levels, and you got to be able to do something with them now. So anyway, we'll see how it actually plays out, but that's just kind of my theory about it. Progression is heavily influenced by your active archetypes perk, and we've rebalanced all archetype perks to improve overall balance and create more distinct trade-offs. Among the 3 base archetypes, Recruiter, Motivator, and Tactician, Tactician now offers the highest XP ceiling, but only if you're consistently winning. It also carries the greatest downside if you're not. Conversely, Motivator and Recruiter will provide a more consistent gain, but a lower ceiling and maximum upside. The amount of XP from each archetype perk now scales by archetype tier. Elite archetypes, Elite Recruiter, Master Motivator, and Scheme Guru, often double the amount of XP as the 3 base archetypes. Hybrid archetypes, which is I think what a lot of people are going to work towards, is Talent Developer, Strategist, and Architect, offer more than elite archetypes, and Program Builder and CEO can offer upwards of 10 times more XP than a base tier archetype. In order to quickly and efficiently scale your coach level and power, it is imperative that you invest in higher level archetypes and then focus on activating that perk as many times as you can. You can see here for Kirby Smart, or maybe you can't because it's tiny. I wish I could blow this up. I really can't. So I wish I could. But 12,500 bonus XP for playoff wins. Will you need more XP if you're already Kirby Smart? That's kind of the one thing I worry about. I don't think it will matter. And I get that they want to do something for the people that are going to play 20 or 30-year saves, but at that point, it seems pretty, inconsequential to me. You can see here, like, Talent Developer now has the Draft Dividends perk, which awards 3,000 bonus XP when your players are drafted. The CEO Archetypes Big Game bonus, you saw 12.5K for each CFP win, as opposed to only national championship wins. But yeah, we know about the coach archetypes at this point, and it'll be really interesting to see what the best method will be. But I know it's like the whole thing is it's the race to get program builder and CEO. Because once you get those things, wow, you're really going to be able to do a ton. However, once you're in a position to even unlock those, the school's already a powerhouse. So I don't know. Like, I get the CEO especially. You've got to at least win a national championship for that. But I think to unlock it, it's like 2. In program builder, I think you need like 5 CFP wins. Or I just think the requirements to unlock some of these things are heavy, in my opinion. Now, not always. I think, some are in a really good spot. But, like, I think you need, like, 5 rivalry wins to unlock Architect even. It's like, how many seasons is that? Especially if I'm a new FCS school that only has 1 rival. It takes me a minimum of 5 years to unlock Architect. I think that's how that works. I don't know. It just seems like kind of a lot. I hope talent developer is going to be more impactful this year. I get that they want to balance and create clear trade-offs between archetypes. Like, you can't just go get everything. You've got to make important decisions. That's what leads to replayability. That's what leads to, I think, the sandbox, right? Like, I think if you could just do everything, it's the same thing every time. But if they've actually made it to where one time I can go talent developer route and I clearly see, okay, this is really beneficial, this is really important, this is really valuable. But then the next time I can go totally into recruiter and have a different experience while still growing the program just in a different way. If they've actually done that, that'll obviously tremendously play into replay value. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Coach Carousel, to me, I think is pretty much exactly the same. I don't think anything's really changed there. There are abilities that can stop your coordinators from leaving or make them less likely to, but there still isn't anything of like, hey, take the players you recruited to this school with you to the next one. That's not really a thing, unfortunately. I think that would be a big time change. Like, if I'm at, say, UTSA, and I get the head coaching job at Texas, well, I want to bring some of the top guys I recruited and got committed to UTSA with me to my new space, my new place. I think that's a big part of college football. We see that happen all the time. You look at some of these top transfers, obviously it's a bit of a different scenario, but, Shedeur Sanders follows Deion Sanders, his dad, to Colorado, but so did Travis Hunter. And that's the case for a lot of these different players. So it'd be nice to see that as an option. Filling out your trophy room, we kind of know about that. We know about building the program. Around 2,000 players enter the portal. I get that. But what's interesting here is in College Football 25, players were assigned their star rating based on their OVR. Now star rating is more heavily influenced by a player's position and class year. For example, an 85 overall freshman quarterback will be scored higher than an 85 overall senior guard. That's super important. But as you can see here, portal's not just a mechanic, it's a philosophical choice. Do you build for the future with high school talent or lean into immediate impact veterans from the portal? I mean, I think you're still going to have to use the portal a little bit. Like, because these high school players not playing right away, some of them will want to transfer. Even the players that are already on your team and playing still might want to transfer. And then with the portal, it really is kind of like a short-term type of gain. I'll tell you, I'd be very interested to see how often Jeremiah Smith hits the portal. I don't know why he would. I guess if Ohio State has a really awful season, maybe he would look to jump in the portal. That would be an interesting thing. Arch Manning, they're just throwing big names in there. Deal breakers here, I think, is the big thing with all this, because that heavily impacts recruiting and players transferring. They've refined the playing time deal breaker to have it better reflect the realities of roster management. In CFB 25, players with the playing time deal breaker evaluated their projected depth chart position over the next few years. Or 4 years. This helped simulate situations where a returning starter could see a highly rated freshman coming in and anticipate losing their job. But it missed an important piece. Cases where a lower rated player was actually logging significant snaps. Even if that player was contributing week after week, the system still saw them as buried on the depth chart based purely on overall rating. College Football 26 playing time now factors in snaps played, ensuring that players who are actually seeing the field feel properly valued regardless of where they sit on the depth chart. Even if playing time isn't a player's official deal breaker, it can still be a deciding factor in whether or not they stay. This is especially true for former 5-star recruits, high-rated backups, and most notably, as we talked about a little bit earlier, quarterbacks. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see exactly how that works out. And this apparently also will prevent your friend in your online dynasty from being a cheese artist and redshirting every player on their roster, even when that guy is a borderline starter. Now redshirting comes with a risk. Do you want to redshirt a player and limit his playing time at the risk of him leaving the offseason due to lack of playing time? I don't like how that's phrased, because then it almost felt like there was going to be an or in there. But I just misread it. So that's definitely going to be a big question. Do you want to redshirt and take the risk that they transfer, or get them playing time early? That'll be very, very interesting to see what people do, because that was a big time decision that we had to make back in the NCAA football games. Oh, if I redshirt this guy, will he be here next time around? That is going to be something to think about for sure. There also are, as was mentioned in the trailer, evolving expectations in College Football 25. All deal breakers had a fixed grade requirement of a B-. And that threshold never changed, regardless of how good a player was. In College Football 26, we now have dynamic deal breakers, a system that actively reflects a player's evolving and changing expectations over time. As players become more talented and productive, their expectations grow alongside them. Makes it more difficult for some schools to meet those rising demands, of course, and often results in players organically transferring as their goals outgrow their current situation. So, will you even want to recruit 5-stars to small schools? Probably yes, but will they just transfer out right away? That's going to be very, very interesting to see. Nico Iamaleava, of course, left as well. Mentioned that here. But it's going to be really, really interesting. If players do decide to leave, abilities within the program builder archetype can help. But again, you need to get so deep into the dynasty to even unlock program builder that at that point, these players are probably a little bit more replaceable. So I'm trying to think about this from a content creation standpoint. Like, if a typical series of mine would go like 5 seasons, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe that changes to like 10 now. However, from a content creation standpoint, again, this is more of what I have to worry about versus you guys actually playing the game. The interest is going to completely die off, you'd think of, by, even close to episode 10. So that creates another problem for me. We'll see. There are new settings, and I think I will end up utilizing these. Max transfers per team, adjust how many players can transfer from a single team, 0 to 30. Setting this to 0 disables the portal entirely for a more traditional experience. So you can completely erase the portal if you want. You also have transfer probability, scale how likely players on user-controlled teams are to transfer if the deal breaker is violated, and you can do the same for computer teams, allowing you to line or differentiate how the AI handles player retention. So I will say, will I ever probably change this? No. I always like the idea of fixing this or changing it to how I see fit. But then you have people like saying, that's cheating. I have to deal with so many annoying things in one way, shape, or form. But, maybe I will scale it to how I think is best. But, not right away. We're going to have to see, okay, is it a little bit realistic or unrealistic or annoying? And I want to have fun at the end of the day, right? That is the complete goal. Of course, you can see school grades and stuff. They've made improvements to playing style. This was so annoying. The stat-driven grade tied to how your teams perform in the field. A pass rush specialist defensive end would not want to go to your school if you weren't accumulating a ton of sacks. Your linebacker would not want to go to your school if you weren't getting a ton of TFLs. But hey, maybe you're stopping the guy every time for a gain of 1 or 2. They're still punting. Your run defense is still awesome, but you're not getting TFLs. Well, now they've reevaluated how that works. Last year, many defensive player types were overly reliant on individual stats like interceptions or TFLs, often leading to small sample skew. This year, more player types, especially on defense, evaluate team-level stats like average passing yards allowed or rushing yards allowed per game. The result is a more stable, fair reflection of how your program actually plays. As part of these updates, we've also reevaluated and adjusted the starting grades for every team to better reflect their real-world standing and to take full advantage of the new grading distribution. We talked about location-based recruiting. There's not really a ton to touch on other than it can be as low as 10 or as high as 40 hours for cross-country visits. It's done purely based on proximity. I think that's awesome. It makes it way more realistic and better for small school recruiting. And if you're a super small school, let's say you only have like 400 hours in recruiting. Well, last year, spending 40 hours on each player to get them on a visit was completely debilitating towards the rest of your recruiting class and even for some of the players you were already recruiting. Now, if I just am going after local guys, I still want the benefit of that visit. It might cost me 40 total to bring in 4 players. I think it is a huge change, and it makes it way, way better for small schools. And you're going to want to try to take advantage of the things that small schools do anyway. Recruit local, right? I think that certainly helps you do that. I think that's way better. Discovering the next star. Scouting is a critical part of identifying which players fit your program and which recruits you want to go after. Coaches often refer to this as finding their OKGs, our kind of guys, in College Football 26. We've made 2 key improvements to the scouting system that make it easier to use and more impactful as you build your recruiting board. I was kind of unaware about how many people thought recruiting in College Football 25 was boring, monotonous. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was fine. Like, you don't really want to be spending 30 to 40 minutes a week on recruiting, right? I think you kind of want to spend like 5, 10, 15 minutes in some scenarios, but not a lot more than that. Think about how much time that would be if there were so many different things to do on one individual player. Like, if you were spending even 3 or 4 minutes on a player recruiting each week, think about how many players that is if you're going after 25, which is a pretty bog standard recruiting class size. I don't think you want to be spending an hour a week in recruiting, but people didn't really seem to like it, supposedly. And I guess maybe that's the same for scouting. First, we've reordered how attributes are displayed during scouting, ensuring that shared ratings across archetypes appear in a consistent order for every position. Thank you. In College Football 25, this often made comparing prospects at the same position frustrating, especially when the same ratings would appear in different spots depending on the archetype. Now, when you're comparing 2 players at the same position, regardless of archetype, you'll see their shared attributes lined up in the same way every time, making comparisons easier. Second, we've expanded the power of the Mind Reader ability within the Strategist archetype. Previously, Mind Reader only revealed a recruit's development trait during a campus visit, which often came too late to meaningfully influence your recruiting decisions. Now, if you possess Mind Reader for a recruit's position group, you'll be able to reveal their dev trait directly through scouting, giving you a critical head start in identifying high potential prospects early in the cycle. Knowing which players have a huge potential upside and are truly special talents is now a strategic edge you can learn and identify early in the recruiting process to maximize how you spend your recruiting hours. And we got to talk about recruiting battles here, because just playing early, I didn't really notice this one play much of an impact, but we'll see. Maybe I wasn't understanding it properly. That's a likelihood, maybe. In College Football 25, there are moments when 2 schools were locked in a close recruiting race, and it wasn't always clear why one team ultimately won out. When both programs were neck and neck, it could feel a little random which school landed the commitment. To me, it wasn't. It was who was spending more hours most of the time. Which school is bigger? Now, when one school reaches the commitment threshold and another is right behind them, a recruiting battle will be triggered. The recruit won't commit right away, and instead they will set a new, higher commitment threshold, giving both schools a short window to make one final push. It's not a long extension, just enough to create space for a true head-to-head finish. From that point on, it becomes a race. Whichever school reaches the new commitment threshold first secures the commitment. This is when you pull out all the stops. It's a dead sprint to the finish line. Do everything you can to push across the threshold before your rival does, because once that new threshold is hit, the recruit is off the board. I mean, it feels, again, similar to the way it was last year. It just seems like another stage to me. Because you're already putting full hours on that player anyway, probably. And you've probably already got them in on a visit before. So is the new strategy going to be don't bring them in on a visit if you can help it? Wait as long as possible. And then when they're in a recruiting battle stage, get them in on a visit then? But what if they're already scheduled a visit to the other school who did it earlier and it just happened to fall along the same week? I don't know. I know, like, the last week recruiting visits played a big impact in NCAA 14, and they can to an extent maybe in real life, but I don't know. We'll see how recruiting battle goes. They've also changed recruit generation, supposedly. Like, I don't know. We'll see. This is kind of where I'm not loving college football, is I think oftentimes you're not getting the caliber of recruit that you should be, and they're not getting the abilities that they should have. And it almost feels that they've made it even worse. I think that's what they did. This year, we've increased the number of recruits generated each season of 4,100, providing a deeper and more varied pool of talent for programs at every level. As part of this expansion, we've also rebalanced several key aspects of recruit generation, including physical and mental abilities, as well as each prospect's individual ratings. I don't really like it from what I've seen so far, because yeah, it needed rebalancing at certain positions, because every quarterback would just have a ton of abilities. A ton. Every quarterback would. But there were so many positions that got nothing. Like, you might see a corner from time to time at different points in the year that actually had physical abilities, but there were so many positions that had nothing. And it seems like it might be the case again, except for every position now. Supposedly, you'll still be able to find players with high-level attributes and silver or gold tier abilities, the kinds of elite prospects that can transform a program, but there will be fewer of them overall. In particular, when it comes to athletes, we've reduced both the quality of top-end athlete prospects and the quantity generated across each position. That means it's going to be rare to find truly elite prospects, but when you do, it will feel special, and landing them will be a major win for your recruiting class. I don't really mind that, but I felt like finding truly elite prospects was already somewhat rare. Again, depending heavily on the position, but can you not really get platinum abilities for recruits anymore? You don't even mention that in here. High-level attributes and silver or gold tier abilities. Well, I think part of the reason that you want 5 stars over 4 stars, 3 stars, is because they can start with platinum abilities. Like, you want the cream of the crop. And I think it sounds like recruiting, like the actual recruits, have been heavily nerfed. That's my takeaway. We've also reworked how pitches and deal breakers are assigned to better reflect the wants and needs of players today. Glamour positions like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, corner, and edge now put a much heavier emphasis on brand exposure to better reflect their expectations around NIL abilities. I think that's totally fine. Sway, they basically have just shown you on the screen now when you might want to do that and what your chances are. This was already kind of known, but now it's shown. Like, you kind of had to go out of your way to find out this information a little bit, but now they show it. So that's kind of nice. And you can sway and sway and sway. You can get multiple sways if you have the time and have put yourself in a good position Because again, like you have a higher success rate with 2 of 3 versus 1 of 3 or even nothing. So if 2 of 3 is actually going to be a sway most of the time, and 1 of 3 sometimes will be, like that might actually play a difference in recruiting against like real top tier schools for different players. But I don't know. For me, especially get multiple that you didn't have already, that's a lot of hours and that's a lot of weeks. Like in order to get 2, best case scenario, 2 more that you didn't have, I should say. Best case scenario, that's 2 weeks. Absolute best case scenario. And I don't know if I mind that. I still don't know how valuable sway is going to be. Sometimes it is, but I think the situation is just somewhat rare. Quality of life improvements to include team needs and things like that, but I still think I'm going to heavily prefer actually looking at my roster and seeing myself, because I think it's quality versus quantity, and this really just shows you quantity as far as I'm aware. So I think that's kind of like the crux of it. Like they've changed player progression to where you can do that yourself. They've changed how progression works, and a player's dev trait also plays a bigger role in off-season progression, which I think is huge. It just seems like a lot of these things that were problems have mostly been fixed. Like there are a ton of new physical abilities, which is great, but will you actually be able to unlock those? I don't know. The dev trait upgrade, I think, is super nice. The quality of life of showing the off-season training results is huge. You can progress these players manually now. Position changes are a key part of building and evolving a roster in Dynasty mode, but transitioning to a new role isn't always seamless. So they fixed the player position change cheese. So it's actually maybe not worth it to change positions anymore. So let's read this. When a player moves to a new position or role, they must learn a new position and skill set. I think that should actually be flipped. When they move to a new position, they must learn a new role and skill set, one that may not directly translate from their previous experience. While they can certainly grow into the role over time, that development doesn't happen overnight. To better reflect now, when a player changes positions, they will retain only the abilities that are shared between their previous archetype and the new one. I think that makes sense overall, and I feel like it's kind of how it was a little bit, because you just, once you change them to a new position, they couldn't just keep things they had. It would completely change. So I don't know. Their skill group caps are also adjusted based on how closely the new position relates to their original one. This is the big thing. I would almost say do not change their position. If their group caps, if they were good already, you don't want to move them around and risk gaining a ton of new skill caps. That would suck. And I've seen it. Don't do it, is what I'm going to say. But of course, we know about, like season and career health. I think we've touched on mainly a lot of the big things in here. There's so many different custom settings, and there are a lot of like just quality of life changes. I mean, there are pages and pages on tiebreaker logic, stat padding, and all these different things. And we talked about the new positions and archetypes, protected opponents. If you want to go read the blog, I highly recommend you do, if you didn't think everything was covered in this video. But I think we got a lot taken care of, and I think it's going to be a good year. I'm really excited for it. Team Builder has been overhauled. You got to remember, last year was the Team Builder beta. This now is the actual Team Builder. It's maybe not finished, but it's ready to go now, to where it wasn't really ready to go last year at this time. You can import teams from College Football 25. That's going to be awesome. And you can completely customize what your school grades are to start, along with the rest of the roster. So I think that is such a nice change. You can customize everything: dev trait, archetype, abilities, whatever you want, pipelines. But that is going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.